Families put the fun in dysfunctional.
Do they say what the secret is?
Separate bank accounts. And a doctor was like, you have to quit. And I was like, okay. We got to develop some identity outside of that. My mom's dad was shot and killed at gunpoint when she was 18 months old. Is depression, untreated anxiety, like a therapist can be hard to come by. They don't have those where I'm from. And I had no language for emotion. Yes, I can nail this. Why am I crying? It wasn't supposed to be like this. And it turns out we're both gay. So like, ta-da! Cooking for brains that sometimes can't. Eating for joy. I just hope I have like 2 kids that didn't too bad. Give it to me straight.
Today's guest is Courtney Stone, a licensed therapist whose work is rooted in the brave intersections of body image, athletics, and the LGBTQ plus community. Courtney is a healer who understands that our most difficult battles are often the ones we fight within ourselves. But what I love most is that she is a true believer in the power of connection. Whether she's newly engaged, mothering her Labradoodle Rooney, or bringing people together over a home-cooked meal and a glass of bourbon. Welcome to the show.
I was trying to not avoid eye contact during.
You were trying to not avoid eye contact?
I was feeling a little guarded and I was like, look down, no, look up.
Would looking up have made you like more anxious?
You have to know this. It's just like a lot when you hear all of that about yourself. You're like, oh.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
We're not avoidant.
Avoided, don't want to take compliments.
Yep.
Is that something that you feel like is a common thread amongst a lot of people, that most people can't really accept a compliment? Or do you think it's mainly women?
The airplane experience I had today would describe anything. I think it's women. But
why? What happened on the airplane?
It was just like a bunch of men being men. Basically, some people needed to get off the flight because they were holding another flight to another country for these 5 people.
Okay.
Everyone moved out of the way except like a couple men. The people trying to get off the plane asked this hulking man to move. He scooted over about an inch. And then he rolled his eyes when they made him like get out of the aisle. It's not like we were going anywhere. We're in the back of the plane. Like, just move.
Huh.
It just felt like a very like man thing, but like all the women moved.
Now, do you think that's because the men did hear it and they just don't care and they're like, no?
Yeah, it felt very like, I don't care. Because even the guy's friend was telling him, people got to get off the plane. And he was just kind of like shirked it off.
Now, do you think he was just an
Potentially, yeah. It might not be like a man thing, so I should give men a little bit more credit.
I mean, I don't know if you should. I was just wondering. I was like, let's cover all the bases. Maybe this one particular person was just
No. But I do think women have a hard time with it. We spend most of our lives probably hearing more critique than we do
compliments.
Compliments or like things to build our confidence.
Why
it's like
that?
kind of like taking you down so that like you can build yourself back up to be better or something. I don't know. I'm writing a paper right now and I was doing some research on this. It's like between the ages of 8 and like 16 or something. Basically like
formative years.
As puberty is sort of starting for girls.
Yeah.
Your confidence, I think you lose about 70% of your confidence as a female and you don't regain it until you turn around the age of 40.
That sounds about right. There's a shift at 30, but yeah, it sounds like I'm excited for 40. I think
I think you start rebuilding it 30s.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, okay, I am an adult human that can like do things and take care of myself and other beings, kind of. The other thing that was really interesting, a lot of research that's come out has been that some of the lowest self-esteem is white women specifically.
Really?
Which I think is really interesting because I do think that there's a difference in other cultures, whether it be like social culture or spiritual or religious things, that I think there's a different reverence for women and what they put into the world. So I don't want to negate that for a lot of folks who might be in like the BIPOC population. They also face a lot of body critique and criticism, and there's a lot of standards to live up to. I think they're a little bit different. So sometimes like curves are celebrated, where in some cultures, not just white, but other cultures as well, like even Asian cultures, for instance, the thinner, the better. There's a difference between like a critique and like celebrating curves like that. Do you see like the difference between a celebration versus like not good enough? Body is like a particular one that's really tough, but there are even, I think it was maybe Jay Shetty or someone recently was talking about, don't quote me on Jay Shetty, but it was another podcast that—
Pull out the iPad and then just be like—
Amy Poehler. Yeah, Amy Poehler.
That's what I'll just do here because we're talking facts.
They were talking about religions that celebrate women because we would not exist without them. Yeah. So like all reverence is for women.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so interesting. And I wonder how much of that plays into the research statistic that I read today about like white women having the lowest self-esteem.
Yeah. Is that what it was? Is white women have the lowest self-esteem?
It was out of like a particular sample of people, but
Yeah.
of all of the sample of people, white women had the lowest.
That's so,
Like across, I think it was a 70-year study. I think across those 70 years, they were the ones that consistently showed up.
research indicates that white women, particularly in Western cultures, often report lower self-esteem and greater body image dissatisfaction compared to other racial groups. Wow.
There's a part of it that if you think about like the capitalism, the late stage capitalism that we're in America, we just benefit off of people feeling like they need to be better. Improving themselves, wonderful.
Yeah.
But it becomes their whole identity too.
Yeah.
Or like then taking what they've learned and improving everybody else. When it's a whole identity, I'm like, okay, where's the balance? Like even in anything, I would ask someone that. Like as an actor, if that was your whole identity, I'd be like, we got to develop some identity outside of that because what happens when that's gone? Or like with my athletes, it's like, okay, we have to develop some identity outside of being an athlete.
Yeah.
Or being the partner of an athlete. Because when that's gone, what else do we have? And also, eventually, you might not put so much stock in that.
Yeah, which is important. It's important to feel like you have varied stock in yourself. I guess you can put it that way. It's an interesting thing to navigate. But we have gone on
I know,
a
I was
whole
like, wow,
different.
I just took us somewhere.
No, but I think what's great is like you are a therapist. And so I think all of this is relevant to your profession and talking
It
to
is.
people. But I'm going to take a little bit back and we'll do like a summary of your
Great.
entire childhood life. Is where were you born?
The Cincinnati area, Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati. It's confusing for people. It's all one tri-state area.
Mm-hmm.
I identify with being from the Midwest, so I say Cincinnati. I didn't realize people considered Kentucky the South
I didn't know that either.
until I went to college at the University of Kentucky.
Is Kentucky in the South?
You know, I guess it's
bringing
dependent on
the-
the Mason-Dixon line. And so it really just depends on who you ask.
Mason-Dixon line. I haven't
Yeah.
heard that since literally history class in like fifth grade.
Wow. Geography lesson.
Hold on. We're looking this up. We are also looking up, is Kentucky?
Yeah, I want to know what the internet says.
Because the internet's always right.
Anecdotally, a lot of people think Kentucky is the South. And like you would automatically, if you told somebody you were from Kentucky, you would automatically get like the most heinous questions. Like, do you wear shoes? And
What?
you're like, yeah. Because I think everybody's like a hillbilly.
In Kentucky?
Yes, people think that.
Who thinks that?
I've been asked that question throughout my life. Luckily, like
Huh.
in the later years, people ask me more about like bourbon and horse racing, which are things I can totally stand behind. I'm like, yes, ask me about that, but don't ask me silly questions.
It is the upper South or border South.
Mhm.
While it has some Midwestern influence in the North, it is often grouped with Southeastern U.S. due to its geography below the Ohio River. So is that what separated your town? Is
The Ohio River.
Is the Ohio River separate Ohio and Kentucky?
Yes.
Great. I'm getting a geography lesson.
And then also Indiana further down,
Got it.
and West Virginia on the other side of Kentucky. But the Ohio River separates us. You could see downtown Cincinnati from the high school I went to. Northern Kentucky is kind of this little island. Like nobody really wants to claim us. Like Ohio, like people from Cincinnati growing up, they'd be like, well, you're not from Cincinnati. Like you don't live in Ohio. And I'd be like, well, how far from downtown are you? And they're like 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. If you go deeper into Kentucky, like we have a farm a little bit further, like probably an hour and 20 minutes.
Your family does?
Into Kentucky. Yeah. And the people down there call the people from where I'm from like citified.
They citified a word?
I don't know. It's a word to them. If it's a word to them, I just let it be a word.
You know? Well, citified.
Is it a word?
Citified refers to having the manners, fashions, or characteristics of an urban city dwelling person or surroundings that have become urbanized. What?
Yeah. So, because like we definitely in Northern Kentucky, I think we fit in with a more like Midwestern way of life, but also just like a Midwestern sort of persona.
Okay.
So then when I went to UK, it was very Southern. Like everyone was in like
What is UK?
University of Kentucky.
Got it. Okay.
Everyone was in like Lily
I thought you were talking about the
Pulitzer.
United Kingdom.
Oh my God, no. I wish. Everyone was in like Lily Pulitzer and like
What is Lily Pulitzer?
it's all like super Southern sorority stuff and like Southern Tide and like
Okay, wait, let's take it back. So you're from Kentucky, which is
Yeah.
considered a southern state, but you necessarily don't consider yourself from the South, but at the same time, you're not welcome in Ohio because you're not actually in Cincinnati. So,
yeah, I think like they're fine claiming us now. I can't say that they're not.
but it was like weird growing up.
Yeah.
Okay. And your mom and dad married together?
Oh
Divorced?
yes, they're married.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I was like, let's get
Been-
well straight to it.
Been married my whole life. They're living a sweet life right now. They're like traveling a bunch in their old age for my dad's job.
Your parents are very cool. I can comment because I've met them.
They are pretty cool.
And they have figured out life, getting to travel for work. And basically, your mom works remotely. And so, has it always been like that?
No, I grew up with my dad. He's a CPA and he has always done like internal audit or similar things. So he's traveled Monday through Thursday of most weeks my whole life.
Okay.
He'd get home usually Thursday afternoon and then he would coach my soccer practice on Thursday and
Yeah.
then be at all of mine and my brother's games and stuff on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then he'd leave and do it all over again. And I think we all like vibed with this because he's chilled out later in life, but early in life, he was very like type A, like everything needs to be in its place. Like if he came home and too many pairs of shoes were out, he would tell us, he'd like put them all on the steps and say like, if these aren't put away by tomorrow morning, they're all going in the garbage. And then like you'd wake up and they'd all be in the garbage.
So your dad was like that, not your mom.
No, my mom on Wednesday nights before we'd leave for school on Thursday morning, she'd be like, okay, we gotta clean. Like everybody, let's pick up the house. And so we'd be like picking up the house and like getting everything back in order. But my parents also had a lot of rules, not in a way that I felt they were over protective or anything, but just like we never ate food in the living room on the couch.
Got it.
That just didn't happen.
They valued their furniture and not having kids spill
Yeah,
stuff
I think
on
it was really just like teaching us how to take care of nice things. Like if we're gonna have nice things, then we're gonna take care of nice things.
It's a good lesson to learn, to be honest.
Yeah. Whereas like my dad's mom, she's had plastic on her couch forever. He was very chill compared to her. And then my mom grew up with not many nice things. So I think it was also like her valuing, like we kind of learned the value of things because she didn't have them.
It's really important, though.
Yeah.
It's really important when you understand the value of things and take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be a very valuable lesson in life. And as you get older and you can buy your own things, I see in LA, particularly, I'm sure you have too, a lot of people tend to, if they have money, the children become byproducts of, well, if something gets broke or something gets ruined.
Just get a new one. Everything's like disposable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's anywhere else, but I feel like we've talked about this in LA, and it seems that can be a common occurrence in places where there's wealth. But anyways, that wasn't the case in your house. How did your mom and dad meet?
They met at a graduation party. She apparently, the story goes, a couple days earlier, she had, I don't know, she fell off a bike or something and like chipped her two front teeth and like basically like had half of her two front teeth when she met my dad.
No.
Yeah, and my dad introduced himself and she like got his name wrong. And then I guess as one did back in the day, he like, they must have hit it off. I don't know. And then he called my mom's house and my mom grew up without a father. And so my dad got lucky, I guess, because just my sweet little grandma answered the phone. And then the rest is history. They went to college together. Ironically, we're already like planned to go to the same college. So
Wow, and they've been together since.
sure have 40 something.
Oh, and did they say what the secret is?
Separate bank accounts.
Ooh, so both have their own financial independence.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, they like split things.
Yeah, of
but
course.
one is like one way with money, the other is very much a different way with money, and they have always told me like our marriage has survived because of separate bank accounts.
I'm a huge advocate of like, you know, you've heard me say like, this is my house, that is your house, this is my bank, that is your, and obviously you figure it out when it comes time to like, okay, we're going to dinner or we're going on vacation and you figure out, okay, do we split this or who's paying for this, who's paying for that? But it gets easier and easier the more you're together. But I 100% love that. And you get to maintain your financial independence, which is so important, especially I think as a woman.
Yeah.
So I love that.
I was just talking about it with my therapist because like I'm about to get married and we were talking about the stress of finances and whatnot. My therapist and I were, and she recommended to me, she was like, if I could give you any advice for my own marriage, she was like, we have separate bank accounts and then we have one shared bank account.
Oh,
and
I
like
like that too.
that's sort of like the pool that like house things come from and whatnot, but
Yep.
then you each have your own finances too. And I
Yeah.
was like, I like that idea.
It's kind of figuring out how it best works. And obviously there's situations where some people are just housewives or house husbands and don't have jobs, and that's a completely different dynamic. But if you have a profession, I do love the financial independence and how that works out. I love that your parents did that. They were so ahead of their time and so progressive.
Yeah, they were in a lot of ways. Like
Really?
the
What
other,
else?
like some other things growing up, like from the time I could understand what college was, my parents were like, you're going away for at least a year of college, which meant out of the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, because there are several universities. So they were like, no, you're leaving and going away. And so I just, from the time I understood what that meant, I think I took it like a step further and was like, oh, I'm leaving this part of the country.
So where did you go when you studied abroad?
I studied abroad in London twice, studying theater, and then spent a year at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, studying international relations.
Okay, we must talk. We're going to take it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Great childhood. Siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother.
Get along growing up?
I think we had like the normal sibling stuff growing up, but then in high school, he became very protective of me. And it was really sweet. Yeah, ever since, he's just been like great. We don't talk a whole lot, but when we catch up, it's like for an hour. Or he'll like text me to vent with something about like his life or our parents or something. And I'm like, okay, well,
it's good.
good luck out there, buddy.
What's the saying that your dad likes to say about your family? You put the...
Oh, we put the fun in well, he just says it about families. He said families put the fun in dysfunctional.
Oh, it's not just about your family. So I always interpret it as your family. And I was like, only a well-rounded, stable family says that. It's like, because trust me, the dysfunctional families, you're like, no, there's no fun. There's no fun. This dysfunction does not have fun.
Yeah, I think he also comes to that perspective from neither he or my mom had functional families. And so I also think that that's what's made their marriage work. As an adult, I can kind of look and see this is like, I think they both were like, no, we committed to something. We're going to figure it out because we committed to this thing. And I can acknowledge that with some people, it's better off not to do that. Yeah. I think my parents were in a place where like they've always been like, okay, we're going to figure it out. It's going to have ups and downs because being in any relationship is hard, like even a friendship. They just knew what dysfunction did look like. And I think both tried really hard not to repeat the dysfunction.
So they wanted to evolve. They wanted to, change, break that chain that they had been raised in.
That probably comes from like, I can look at their parents and like my dad's parents had a contentious relationship. And at times, I think his dad wanted to leave, but
didn't.
My dad and or his siblings kind of got him to stay. But also his dad was an alcoholic and his mom had a lot of interesting personality, like loved her. Later in my life, but earlier in my life, she was really tough. She and I had like a really bad relationship because I was so close with my grandpa. And then my mom grew up really with a single mom. I think there were like some people in and out, but my mom's dad, this is going to sound so crazy. So don't worry, I'm fine. She's fine. My mom's dad was shot and killed at gunpoint when she was 18 months old. So my grandmother was a widow in her like early 20s with 3 kids.
What happened? Why was he shot at gunpoint?
So the story, as I understand it, is that he was a cattle farmer and he had a cattle sale or auction that day. The cash, because back then it would have been all cash. He took the cash to the bank and then was over at a friend's house. My mom and I think her siblings were at the house too. And I think the dad, like his friends, had gone out to get something. And so what would have been my grandfather was there with all of the kids. 2 people had followed him and not known that he had taken the cash to the bank and tried to rob him.
But
shot and killed him.
And did those people go to jail?
Yeah. Weirdly, I had this memory one time. I remember exactly where I was when my grandmother told me this. I was like walking out of a Chinese restaurant. And I was pretty little. And she was like, oh yeah, your the guys are getting out of jail soon. And I was like, what? And I like couldn't really put it all together. I have a very distinct memory of this happening, but at the time I didn't know what any of that meant. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so she tragically lost her husband when your mom was 18 months old and then had to raise 3 children on her own. Did she have a job?
I don't know if she had a job at the time, but she became a maid in a hotel.
And what did your dad's parents do?
My grandmother was, I guess you could say stay-at-home mom. She did a lot of like volunteer stuff, but also was kept really busy. My dad had a brother with Down syndrome
Oh,
in the 60s,
yeah.
which is pretty tough. Like that was before ADA and everything.
Explain the dynamic.
She saw him as a gift, and he was incredible. We were in this bar that's probably been there since before the 1920s this weekend, and there was this man with a disability sitting at the end of the bar by himself. He was in his Reds t-shirt watching the Reds game, and anytime anything would happen, he would start like cheering. They had an old radio station on, so songs like Put Me in Coach were like coming on, and he was like singing them, and I was like, if my uncle was still alive, this is what he would be doing. Like, I'm without a doubt certain. Or like the movie, did you see the movie Eternity recently?
No, but I want to.
It's so good. You kind of like pick what eternity you want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted that to my partner about the man and that my uncle would have been that. And she's like, oh, he's definitely doing that. Like, I'm sure that's the eternity that he chose. And it has to be. But yeah, so my grandmother raised him, and I think she saw him as a gift and did like, again, this is all passed down to me, did a lot of advocacy. He got to, I think, often go up to my dad and uncle's high school and like go to gym class with all the guys that were in high school. And she did like get him into some of the Catholic schools to be able to like take some classes and do things, which was before that was an obligation of schools and education systems. My grandma was honestly kind of progressive because my two oldest uncle and aunt on that side they were adopted.
Your uncle and aunt?
So they were adopted in the 50s.
So she had a special needs child and two adopted kids?
Yeah. So first she had two adopted kids because she didn't think she could have kids. Then came my dad's biological brother, then my dad, and then his brother with Down syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I feel like she was kind of a progressive baddie. Like, no wonder I'm a social worker.
She was progressive even in the fact that she was like, no, I'm going to raise my son.
Yeah. And then there were like certainly some things where she had her flaws that
who doesn't?
I'm just not going to sell her out. But yeah, she certainly had her flaws. The other crazy thing is she also would volunteer all the time at an orphanage. There were still orphanages.
Oh, wow.
Then, especially because it's a super Catholic area. Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky is.
Okay.
And so it's like a bunch of Catholic orphanages run by nuns. And
still today?
No, they're done now.
Do orphanages not exist at all anymore?
I think there's like foster homes, but I don't think we call them like an orphanage. Like I'm saying this and I'm like, is this like a PC term? I don't know.
We're going to find out. I'm going to do it right now. I mean, I feel like, what would people say? Because I know people that were like, I was adopted. So is orphanage a bad word now?
I don't think so. I just think, well, actually, I don't know. I think we just don't call it that now.
Because is it not acceptable?
I don't know. Or like, is it because it had religious affiliation? I have no idea. Where I'm from, it was always like religiously affiliated.
Orphanage was.
Yeah.
It's not technically the internet says, it's not technically a bad word. It is a neutral noun referring to an institution for children without parents. However, it is considered outdated, stigmatized, and inaccurate in many contexts.
Okay, that's what I felt in my soul, so that feels right. Okay.
It's good to know these things because sometimes, I mean, and it's always good to be educated because sometimes I'll say something and someone's like, oh no, that's insulting to, Yeah,
I was sitting here saying it and
so.
I was feeling my face getting red because I was like, I feel like this is not a good word. Like I'm not supposed to be using
But
this
it's
word.
okay. We just learned. We just educated ourselves, which is all you can ask for. It says that the stigma and negative connotations, the term is associated with institutions that, according to some studies, can cause developmental, emotional, and psychological difficulties for children compared to family-based care.
So where all this was going is I have an aunt was almost like a foster sibling to them and has been a part of my life, my whole life. Like her kid, like we know her kids and I went to her daughter's wedding and yeah, so I don't know. My grandma was kind of like almost like a stay-at-home mom social worker.
Speaking of jobs, we're going to go back to you and your trajectory. Did you always know you wanted to be a therapist?
Oh God, no. No.
Because I heard you say you went to school for theater.
I went into college as a psychology major. I think because humans are interesting, but also because I was like, what's wrong with me? Just like most therapists at some point ask themselves.
Did you think something was wrong with you?
Oh, yeah. I like really struggled with depression in high school and I didn't have a name or like words for it. And it was anxiety and depression. And there's sort of in the field of mental health, sometimes conversation around like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, is depression untreated anxiety? For me, I think that was probably the case. What I needed was to go see a therapist. And instead, I became a psychology major.
Got it.
Yeah. And then it turned out I hated it because it was like a lot of labs and like science stuff and like rats. And I was like, I'm not really into this side of things. Like, I just want to learn about humans. Okay. So I bailed and I did international relations and then had minors in political science and theater.
Okay.
For a long time, I thought I wanted to act. And then I realized I'm not comfortable on a stage. So that doesn't really work out. But I think what I wanted was like an outlet for my feelings.
Why didn't you go to a therapist when you were younger?
They don't have those where I'm from. I mean, they do, but not really. I was just home and I was actually talking to someone that worked at my high school, and we were talking about, she was the high school counselor. Mm-hmm. And at our school, like the counselor, yes, certainly was supporting with like mental health things. Yeah. And I think she even told my parents, like, you should take her to a therapist. They never did. I don't know. I don't know what their thought process was, but that didn't happen. Yeah, I was just talking to her and we were talking about how little mental health support still there is in like that area. Like a therapist can be hard to come by. And somebody reached out to me recently for my private practice and was like, do you practice in my state? And I was like, unfortunately, I don't. And then I was trying to help them find an eating disorder therapist in their state, and it was impossible. I was like, this is hard. Like no one specializes in that. It's so crazy.
I think that's what's interesting too, to kind of sidetrack for a second, is each state in the United States tends to have a very different culture. Mm-hmm. And I always try to explain that because the United States is so big, and you compare it to Europe, and I'm like, kind of imagine that each state in the United States is its own country. And each state kind of has its own culture. And that could be extremely difficult because some states very much don't believe in therapy. And this is obviously the one you were talking about, and in Kentucky as well. So it's I feel for that, because there are people like you that needed that when you were younger.
Yeah. And I think even just like the language to understand like what was happening would have been really nice or helpful. Because I was just like, oh, I'm just stressed all the time, or I'm just exhausted all the time. I knew I was having a lot of feeling, but I didn't know what to do with it. So
what was causing those feelings?
The way my therapist and I talk about it now is I just am a person that I'm a major empath.
Okay.
Within seconds of walking into a room or meeting someone, like I can feel overwhelmed with whatever's happening there. And sometimes it like makes me want to cry. And I don't feel it so much as in like, oh, people in here are really stressed. Mm-hmm. Like my body just takes on the stress. And so I feel it what we would call like somatically. So my body just like is a sponge for whatever energy is around. And so sometimes it's really hard. Like a lot of the therapy I've had to do is called bottom up therapy. Mm-hmm. I've had to figure out what's happening in my body and do a lot of investigation of that and figure out where it's coming from and why, to then link it to an emotion, to understand, why am I crying? Like, I don't actually know why I'm crying. Like, okay, I'm going to have to like go in there and like sift through some and figure out like what's actually happening. And is it mine or is it someone else's?
And how did you come to that realization that that's what you kind of needed, or that's what the person you were, that you were this empath that kind of needed this bottom up way of verbalizing your feelings?
Yeah, moved out here. So essentially I went to college. I did international studies. Again, as an empath looking back, like I had a heart for like all these people in the world who don't have the same access and like privilege. And I don't think I had those words for it in college.
Of course.
But I just knew that I was really interested in learning about nations and cultures and people who like it's just less developed. I found something really interesting about that. Mm-hmm. I think also having now engaged with some of those cultures, part of what I also find interesting is sometimes I think with less development, there's still like a soul that sometimes we're missing when we're an overdeveloped peoples, like, or have a lot of access to everything. It's like sometimes I feel like we're missing being connected to the earth.
I agree with
and
that.
This thing that's like providing everything. And so I think like interestingly, that would actually pull me back down out of a lot of the emotion. And I would feel most comfortable in environments where like a lot of my normal resources were not available. And it was almost because it like grounded me back down. Anywho, so I went to college, I did that. I moved out here. I tried the entertainment industry. It was a disaster. And I did not enjoy it.
So wait, tried the entertainment industry is what sense? So when you went to undergrad, did you go to a graduate school?
Eventually.
Okay,
not yet.
But undergrad, and you ended up going in for psychology.
Yep.
But then that didn't work. Did international studies, studied abroad at this point?
Yes, studied abroad. Also did theater abroad. I loved theater because it was an outlet for all those feelings. I was really depressed, and I loved, like, whenever in a scene class I was given like a depressed character or somebody who was like really angsty, I was like, yes, I can nail this. And I could. But like, give me someone who's supposed to be like hitting on someone else and I'm so screwed. I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, oh my God, this is, and I had a scene teacher do that once, actually with one of my really good friends out here who you've probably met, Daniel. He went to college with me and we were that's how we met, we were in a scene together in a scene study class. The professor put us together with a specific scene, he said, because he thought it was going to make us both uncomfortable.
And it did.
And it did. And he was supposed to be like a 19-year-old boy at a like a 1920s brothel outside of New York City. And I was a prostitute. And this was the scene that we had to do. And it turns out we're both gay. So like, ta-da, no wonder it was so uncomfortable when we had to kiss. And it was like the worst. Daniel loves to tell this story about how we met. Like, this is what he tells people. And then he always tells people that I was his first. No, he tells people he was my first kiss. And I'm like, oh my God.
Was he?
No.
I was going to say, he just likes to say it.
Yeah. And then I clarify. I'm like, yes, stage kiss. Yes. Yes. And like last, because I've never done it again and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, those scenes were just an absolute freaking nightmare for me. I was like, this is obviously I'm not supposed to be an actor. Like, this is so uncomfortable. I also think like I just had not had much life experience at that point. And like,
yeah,
I was like, I don't
What were you, 18, 19?
Yeah. Well, I was 20. I was like, I don't know how to act things like I haven't been ever even like been near or exposed to, like being from Kentucky. What I thought I wanted to do was make art, films, documentaries about people who didn't have the platform or access to like share their stories.
Got it.
So that was why I went into entertainment and moved to LA. As one does, I went to a talent agency to like get my foot in the door. It was a nightmare. Hated it. I left. I was so unhealthy there because of my empath thing. Like, that is a very stressful environment. And my body was just like stress overload. Like, I started getting super sick and all kinds of stuff. And a doctor was like, you have to quit. And I was like, okay, I'll quit. In my next job, I was a personal assistant still in the entertainment industry. That one was much better. I had so much time because this was before work from home was a thing, but I was working from home and I had a lot of time. And that's when I started going to therapy. And it was that therapist who taught me what an anxiety disorder was and that I had it, like generalized anxiety disorder. And she also helped me. She realized, and as a therapist, you can often realize this, you can very quickly see who are people who have no language for emotion. And I had no language for emotion or
What's
for
a
feeling.
usual tell for something like that?
There's a few. One would be like people that just use the same token words all the time. Like, I'm so stressed. I'm so anxious. And you're like, that's not really what you are. I don't know what you are yet because I need to get to understand you and know you a little bit better. And also, I'm never going to choose for you what you are, but we're going to find the language for what you really are. Yeah. Because it's not serving us to just walk through life saying, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. It's a really great way to avoid figuring out what's actually going on.
And why isn't it productive to say that?
For some people, it might. I think we live in a city where a token of success is being busy. And we're all playing the comparison game of like, I'm stressed. And then somebody tells you how much more stressed they are. And you're like, okay, well, this is really unhelpful. Yeah. And also, if we only ever think that big feelings in our body are always stress, then we don't actually know, well, when I talk to my boss and I have this really overwhelming sensation in my body and my cheeks get red and my heart starts to pound, that's one thing. But when I talk to my partner, my palms get a little bit sweaty and I start to feel maybe like a buzzing in my chest. A lot of people are going to call both of those things anxious or stressed. One might be fear of being critiqued or fear of doing something wrong. The other might actually be vulnerability. And it's really important to know the difference between those things. But a lot of times if we hear someone using like one or two or three emotions or terms over and over, we're not differentiating what those really are. So I had a therapist that realized that. And then the other really big tell is if you ask someone how they feel, which is like the token, like, how do you feel as a therapist that everybody mocks? Many, many, many people will tell you something back and it will actually be a thought.
Like
And I'm
what?
like, well, tell me how you feel right now. How do you feel?
I feel tired.
Okay.
But I feel happy.
Okay. So those are emotions. And I could ask
I'm
you why.
therapized.
Yeah. I could ask you why. Some people would be like, let's say you just had an argument with your mom
Okay.
and this is all hypothetical, everybody. And she said something
Thank you for clarifying that.
upset you and was offensive. And then if I asked you, if you were a client, I asked you how you feel, what do you think you might say?
As a therapized person, hurt.
Yeah. Okay. So you're able to identify feeling hurt. A lot of people would be like, well, I'm so mad at her because that's a thought.
Got it.
So that's where you can tell pretty quickly, like, oh, that person hasn't been given language to understand what's really going on in here. And that might be really helpful for them. Because then once we learn that, we can take that and be like, okay, I feel really hurt by my mom. I'm disappointed that she would say these things to me. I also feel a little guilty right now that I responded the way I did. And so maybe I could go back to my mom and have a conversation about that. That's pretty far along in therapy. Like, we don't get there super quickly, but that's also why we do therapy for a long time, is to like help people get to the point of like, oh, we can know these things, then productively use them. Whereas if we're just walking through always like, I'm stressed, we can't productively use that.
And that's what's interesting about that is do you think a lot of it, because I can relate to not having what I called the vocabulary back in the day. Is that what a lot of people struggle with? We just don't know how to verbalize our feelings.
Yeah. And it's a lot of differentiation too. Have you ever seen a feelings wheel?
No.
I mean, look
Should
it
I
up.
look one up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Feelings go. Okay,
Anybody
continue.
listening, if you feel like you don't have language for emotions or if you want to learn more about them, use a feelings wheel. I tell my clients all the time that like we're introducing them to these concepts or these ideas to look up a feelings wheel, screenshot it, and just keep it in your camera roll. And I tell them to walk through life at the beginning of therapy, constantly like checking in with themselves, like before you go in somewhere. So on a feelings wheel, the center are like pretty primary.
I can't see anything. You can point it. That camera could probably see it.
Yeah. So at the center here, there's like fear, shame, anger, sad, empowered, joy, disgust, love, desire. Every feelings wheel has some different primary emotions at the core. It doesn't really matter which one you use because they're all pretty similar. But if you were to say, like if in this situation, I were to say I'm angry at my mom, that's a pretty overarching thing. Like, okay, I want to know more about the anger. So then we would go a branch out. And as you follow it out, it goes to resentful, rage, withdrawn.
Okay.
And then the further you get out, the more you can like really start to pinpoint what the actual thing is happening in your brain and in your body. So on the outermost edge is like violent, sharp, irritated, annoyed, cold. On here is like apathetic, which would be really interesting. Like how different would it be to say I'm angry or I'm feeling apathetic towards my mom?
Wow.
Like those would be super different things.
Wow, I've never seen this before. It's called on here too. It's also known as the emotion wheel. But emotion wheel or feelings wheel. This is great. And it really gives you all the words to really kind of verbalize how you might be feeling really.
Yeah.
To really
And there's like
there's
even a difference between resentful and annoyed.
100%.
But I might be behaving one way that they look similar. But if I actually like sit with myself, I'm like, oh, I'm really feeling resentful. I'm not annoyed at you. I'm acting like I'm annoyed at you, but I resent that you put me in this position.
It's so true. I mean, I deal with it with abandonment's a big one, I feel like, it's a reoccurring thing. But it's interesting how abandonment, it presents itself in anxiety and fear and in jealousy and anger.
You know, I got to being a therapist because I went and did all of this work, improved my life drastically.
Yeah.
And then I also really started to grow up, I think, and just like in your 20s, as you learn more about the world, I was like, oh, like who am I to tell other people's stories for them? What's actually felt most impactful to me is like someone helping me figure out what my own story is, because God knows I've been walking around not knowing what mine is. There's still so much more of it, but I want to understand myself so that as I walk through the world, I do understand my own story. I would much prefer to help other people, to journey with other people, to figure out their own story and find their own voice, and then to figure out how they want to share that with the world. Because I think as a therapist, you do your best to leave yourself at the door. And as a highly feeling person, I feel everything that my clients are saying. And that I think I've had to do a lot of like work to maintain some separation, which I think is as an actor with a character, you probably feel sometimes.
It's sometimes hard to, I was going to ask that, like, how do you step away from the feelings and the things you're having to take on from listening to probably some really tough stories? But yeah, acting is very similar. And I mean, my character is usually make believe unless you're playing a real life character, but stepping away from that character who in my brain when I'm actually acting is real can sometimes be difficult.
Yeah. And there's probably like seeds of things that you find that you can relate to.
You have to.
Because that's how you make it real.
You have to either relate to them the way I put it or just be so empathetic that you can put yourself in their shoes. But I've always said to people as an actor, I'm not putting myself in their shoes and thinking, how would I do this? I'm putting myself in their shoes and making sure I say, how would they do this? And really building a character. Now, sometimes there absolutely intersects elements of their character and my character, but I try my best, which probably helps me step away from a character to make every character I play vastly different than who I am. And that makes it easier to kind of be like, okay, this character's done. This person's done.
Yep.
She lived a life. But I do grow from each character, which is interesting. As a therapist, you evolve as a therapist with every client.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Especially in my private practice. Now that I have more time, since I am recently like fully private practice, part of the reason I did that is because in agencies, a lot of times you're just like bouncing from client to client to client. I had this like almost like sorrow that I couldn't be the therapist I wanted to be when that was happening. I couldn't be fully present. I would do my absolute best because that's what every client deserves. But because I couldn't give clients what I felt like they deserved, I was like, I can't stay here because I'm taking on everything you're telling me. And as an empath, this is a lot. And I'm already also mentally and physically preparing myself while you're talking to me about the person I know that's coming in 10 minutes after you. And I do this 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. Like, this isn't fair to the clients. And then I also started learning this is also not fair to me. Like, I don't feel like my best self.
It's almost like a revolving door you can't get off.
Correct. It's like a hamster wheel. When you start helping people understand what they're okay with and they're not okay with in their life and like what their boundaries are in certain places, as you're doing that, you're learning, wow, I really have to, this is holding a mirror up to me as well. Like, I have to think about that for myself. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm telling you you're too exhausted and that you don't deserve something, I'm having the same realization the same time that I'm reflecting it to you. So it's just this like almost like two-way mirror that's happening in therapy sometimes. So you learn things like that. And then there are also clients that, as I was mentioning, like in private practice, I think in private practice, all of my clients, I remember almost everything. I take notes because I'm supposed to, but like if I didn't take a note, I would still remember most things. And I think it's because I feel things on like a cellular level when people are telling them to me, even like their random friend's name. I'm like, oh, that's just locked in there forever now.
That's great, though. It's great that you can remember all that, too.
Yeah, and you also, I think about them between sessions because they're people. Like, they're humans and they're important and they have, like, milestones coming up that you think about. Oh, I wonder, like, how they're planning that or what they're going to do for that. And it's fun and interesting. And yeah, I think there's, like, those small things that impact you just as human to human. And then also you learn a lot about the world and people and yourself while doing the work. And I think that's also why it's so interesting to me.
It also sounds like therapy is what fulfilled you. It sounds like, trying to tell stories via the entertainment industry just is something that didn't fulfill you because it felt, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of false. It wasn't your story to tell.
Yeah.
Whereas with therapy, you're not telling anyone's story, but you're helping people guide themselves through their story.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the sort of niches I found, which you mentioned early on, were like, I'm an eating concerns and body image therapist. I work with athletes. There are these specific intersections too that I've found really enjoyable. And I think that's because some therapists are really great at just like all depth. Like, let's unpack your whole childhood. Some therapists are like, I want to give you skills. We're not going to talk about your childhood at all. I'm going to give you skills. Here's what you're going to do to like triage your life right now. I find I'm like somewhere kind of in the middle. The niches that I'm in, I think, set me up well for both. Like, if you think about food and body image, sometimes when you're having a terrible body image day, you just need something to get you out of it right now. But also, you eventually need to unpack, like, how'd you get there in the first place? And so I think that sets me up really well, but you learn a lot by like going back and forth between the two as well. You're like, oh, I have to keep these skills sharp and learning about more to provide to people, and learn so much by hearing about people's lives and the things that have shaped them, which you're sitting here doing.
I mean, caught me off guard because I was like, yes, I'm finding it so fulfilling. I'll go down this road for a second to just hear people's stories, and every single person has inspired me, but also like you're saying, has made me think. Like so many people have opened my mind to so many different things. And I've always been someone who's curious. And I think it's why I like the arts. I do like immersing myself into a character and trying to figure out how to bring a character to life in a way that isn't me. Like I said, I try to keep that separate. So I do really gravitate towards that. And I'm finding myself so fulfilled. I always knew I wanted to do a podcast, or not always. The last 2 years knew I wanted to do a podcast, but finding myself so fulfilled hearing so many people's stories. And I'm growing and evolving so much as a person, so I can understand every person you are a therapist for, you remember their stories. Every person that's come in will ask me again in 100 episodes. But like so far, I've remembered everybody's story, and every single story has inspired me, moved me, or just made me feel less alone in certain things, which I think is one of my biggest roots to wanting to do something like this. Is I realize so many people in the world, we feel so alone, and we're looking for some sort of representation through arts.
Yeah.
It's why people watch television. It's why people watch movies. I think, not everyone, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I find through Station 19, what I realized is so many people responded to my character because they needed something to see themselves in, or they needed something that they could go, I'm not alone. And I realized, I was like, I want to be able to put more stories out there, because a good show with a really strong character that someone can respond to and feel represented by doesn't happen all the time. A lot of characters are surface. A lot of characters aren't well written. I was very grateful to play a character that was very evolved. Well, became very evolved, but it was very layered, flawed. You know, she had a story to tell. It's rare to find that. So I was like, I want to tell the real stories, which is interesting. Like you're saying, like, I don't want to wait for the next character to come along to try to find a character that then people can relate to and feel empowered by or inspired by. I want to start sharing the stories of people I know in my life, because there's so many amazing, specifically women, that have stories to tell that hopefully when people hear them can go, I relate to that story. That makes me feel less alone. Or inspires them to go, I'm going to go see a therapist. I need to learn how to verbalize my emotions. Or somebody else that's like, you know what? I don't know what I want to do, but this person was so inspiring because they didn't know either, and they just went for something. And as they went on that journey, they figured it out. Like, some of us just need someone to say, hey, you're not alone, or hey, do this, or so it's so interesting that you brought that up.
at the end of recording an episode, do you feel less alone?
Absolutely.
What does that feel like in your body?
The weird thing that I would say that it feels like is the word's not smaller, like part of a bigger picture, part of a bigger community.
Okay, so that's a thought.
So
what's the sensation that you feel in your body when you like finish recording an episode with someone, or sensations?
I was like, should I look up the word wheel? It's like, what's the word I'm thinking? Like, not elation,
this could be,
but like.
And that could be like, do you feel like any buzzing sensations? Do you feel warm? Is there things that are moving? Do you feel like floaty? Do you feel more like centered?
I definitely feel more centered. As you know me, I usually am going around juggling 8 million things, and this allows me to really focus. And I feel very present. I feel very fulfilled. I feel very happy. Warm, I would say, is one of them. Sometimes sweating physically because it's hot.
It kind of sounds like it's something almost like grounding.
Yeah.
In a way, which is interesting because as you were talking about the arts, I think what maybe like the arts have in common with female conversations, and then also why I've ended up in the niches I am in therapy, are I find my sort of hypothesis about what connects humans, and then specifically females, if we're going to go like the female conversation route, is there's a rhythm in all of those things. Like in art, there is a rhythm. Like in music, there's a rhythm. There is a rhythm to Maya's relationship. There's a rhythm to how a TV show is written. A rhythm to a painting. You can see it in like a stroke, or in conversation. There's a rhythm to conversation, and it ebbs and flows, and the rhythm changes throughout a conversation. But I think that's part of, in my mind, I sometimes wonder if that's why women are social creatures, is it kind of grounds us all into a collective, because there's a rhythm and we're sharing in the same one. I found that for myself, that's how I survive being an empath that feels everything, is my body has to be in rhythm. So I talk with my hands a lot, but also it's why I love running. I think it's why I like working with athletes, because there's something healing about rhythm. And so maybe I don't understand your sport, but I can understand your need for your sport. Or I can understand why right now it's not clicking. It's also why, like, this new food Instagram that I'm doing, cooking has a rhythm. Chopping a vegetable, it's like the one time of day I can, when I think about clients outside, it's kind of like you were talking about. It's more like they make me think about broader things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the one time I can like put my phone down, turn off work, and like you're just chopping something and there's a rhythm to that. And then you're like moving back and forth between like a stove and a cutting board and something else. And there's just like a rhythm that's happening the whole time.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's part of sort of the through line in a lot of the things we're talking about is like that's what makes us feel alive in all these different things that we do.
Is finding that rhythm.
Mm-hmm. Is that like being an actor, there's probably a rhythm to a scene and to a character, but then there's also in a different way a rhythm that makes you feel something different in this space.
They are different rhythms. And I would say that's across the board with my 2-year journey since stage 19 has been finding different ways to storytell, correct? Mm-hmm. It's doing an audiobook, voiceover work, very different rhythm. It's shadowing directors, directing, very different rhythm. Acting, very different rhythm. Podcast, it's all these different ways of storytelling, but very different in how they're told and how you do it in the rhythms.
And I think that's what's healing for people. Like that's probably why we go to art, is it has a rhythm. And so it like when we're feeling untethered in life and chaotic and bouncing around, what do? We go home at night and we watch a show with our partner or our roommate, or we listen to music. Like every angsty teen, you have so much angst. What do you do with it all? You listen to sad music or like screamo or whatever it is. Or, you have to go like pound it out on the pavement. And that's why people go for a run is like, and these are also the things that connect us to other people.
Yeah.
It's almost that same sort of grounding, like life force that I was talking about, like being in other cultures that aren't so resourced. It almost just like brings everybody back down. And they're like connected in song, but in the way they support each other in like the rhythm of a village, like everything has sort of like a pulse. Yep. And I think as I'm talking, I'm like, I'm really curious. Is that what makes us all feel less alone? Is like when we're all sharing in some sort of like pulse with each other. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts now.
Well, but that's why, but that's the beautiful.
I'm like, where am I going?
Would you say that this is the beautiful thing is you got into therapy because of your curiosity in understanding the human psyche?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And that's going to evolve.
Yeah,
it is. Just like everything, right?
Yep. And now there are like times where I'm like, should I go get a doctorate so that I can actually like do this research and ask these questions and find answers to them? That would be interesting. And then there are also some days where like, I just love feeling connected to like the earth and other people and things so much that I'm like, oh, my dream is to just like become a chuck wagon cook. Food for other people over an open flame and then sit around and listen to people talk about their lives and stories and stuff. This is so nice. I think it's a little idealistic. My therapist would tell me it's like escapism, but
it's one of those. But again, we go back to it. It's like if we didn't need house, the car, the things, the resources, if you keep your life simple as possible. I mean, I now know a ton of people from high school. I mean, we haven't had strong heart-to-hearts with them about the trials, the ups and downs of it, but live RV lives. I mean, they live very simple lives, and there's a community around the RV life because they'll go to certain spots and they'll go to those same spots yearly, and the same people with, RVs will be there, and there's a sense of community when they go there. So possible.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm like paying all these bills and like just taking care of all the things that we have to take care of and just like seeing LA and like all the billboards, I at least once a week to myself or to like somebody sitting, whoever's in my passenger seat and will listen, I just will say like, it wasn't supposed to be like this.
And what do you mean by
all this stuff? Me paying someone for water. Like I'm paying you for clean water. That's wild. Like it wasn't supposed to be like this. Like can I just like barter? Can I be a tradesperson and I have something, or a shaman, and I have something of value to give you and you have something of value to give me, and we barter, and then we just like, again, my therapist tells me I'm like way too far in escapism because she told me I'm escaping.
Yep.
That's why I have stuck with being a therapist.
Why? Why is her saying you're escaping made you stick to being a therapist?
Well, she told me she actually said, Courtney, you need to live your real life. And I was like, thanks. She really shoots me straight.
As she should. As therapists should.
Yeah, she's great. So I was like, okay, well then fine. I'll find a way to do that in my real life.
Yeah.
Bonnie, I'll find a way. And I did. So that's why, again, this is where I, saw Reese Witherspoon telling people on her Instagram to do what you're talented at. So then I was like, okay, well, I love all those things and I'm talented at them, like cooking, teaching, all the things. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll make it my real life. So now I started this Instagram.
So explain to me what the Instagram is about, this new venture.
So I thought I was being punny, but I think most people probably aren't going to get my pun. It's called the Food Enough Therapist, and that comes from the term the good enough parent. So in therapy or in psychology and in your master's program, they teach you about the good enough parent. So you don't have to be a perfect parent. You just have to be good enough. So then I changed that into the Food Enough Therapist because I'm just trying to get people to like nourish themselves, As a therapist that works with eating and body image concerns and was working with college students for a while and then also work with athletes and who has an absolute passion and love for food. My personal statement to get into my master's program was all about how I learn about people through like what they eat, when they eat, who they eat it with, all the things. Like that's how I learn about people and as individuals, but also cultures. So it's only natural that I went in the direction of becoming an eating disorder therapist. And yeah, I was like, I love learning about food and where it comes from. And I've had a really healing journey with my body and food. I think specifically through thinking about like things as simple as like, oh, the piece of lettuce, literally the pinnacle of its life is to be eaten to nourish someone.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. So like, how different will I be as a benefactor of that if I like slow down and think about that versus just like looking at food as something that's going to change how my body looks? I had a really healing journey through that. And now I think I really, through that, appreciate sharing this value with other people, whether it be because they have body image and eating concerns or because they have things like ADHD or depression. I found that a lot of clients that found me in my private practice and then a lot of people in my life have ADHD. A lot of women are being diagnosed later in life with ADHD, and it's like really revelational for some people. Okay. And what I found for a lot of those folks is that cooking can be really difficult and or grocery shopping can be really difficult.
Really?
Yeah,
Why
there's
is
a
that?
lot of like... So if we think about grocery shopping, there's so many options. It's so much.
Yeah.
There's a list to get through. Hopefully we have a list. It's just like an experience that can draw your attention a lot of different ways. We can like lose track of things. There can be really exciting things. Or maybe it's just like overwhelming and we don't want to be there. And so it's hard to stay on task or to like get from one place to the next. Yeah. So I found that like body doubling, which is like taking a partner with you, can really help in that situation. And then cooking is really hard for numerous reasons. For some people with ADHD, it's just the task initiation of even like going to cook. Oh. The motivation to do that is really hard. And it's because dopamine and norepinephrine, which are two chemicals in your brain, they function differently in folks who identify with having ADHD. Okay. And so the task initiation is harder, which that also means like it's harder sometimes because the reward of cooking. Like for you, when you think about cooking, I know you well enough. I feel like I could say that you're like, oh, there's going to be a really yummy, healthy meal at the end of this. Like my salmon is going to be so good. It's going to be awesome. You can think about that and like the reward is already there for you because you know that it's coming. Yeah. It doesn't hit the same. So the task initiation is harder, but then also multitasking or like task switching. So if you're supposed to be boiling a pot of water at the same time you're chopping something.
Got it. Yeah. Just doing those two things at the same time is overwhelming, basically. Yeah. Okay.
It's just a lot. Or like you're supposed to broil this thing, but then you started thinking about how you need to pay that bill. So you go to do that, but it's on broil. Broil, you can't really mess with that. Like it's going to burn. Things like that are just really hard. Yeah. And then I'm also learning through this experience because on Fridays I cook someone else's recipe and like let people know, is it accessible if you have something like ADHD or depression? A lot of recipes are not set up well.
No, they're horrible.
And like even looking at the ingredient list, like my partner who has ADHD will look at the ingredient list and be like, I'm out. Yeah. Like we don't even make it past the ingredient list on some of these things. And so really the idea of the channel is cooking for brains that sometimes can't. I love that. And, you know, that could be ADHD. You're a busy parent. You are just like a working person. And at the end of your day, you're exhausted. But like, how do we just make food more accessible so that we can all nourish ourselves.
Yeah.
And also educating people about like sometimes like what are foods that maybe like help with mental clarity or energy. But also sometimes it might be like I'll put fun facts up about what is a calorie. It's a unit of energy and it's actually like not something that's gonna harm you. We need those and we don't need to discriminate on like what kinds of them we need. So really also trying to maybe sometimes like help people heal their relationship with what food is or what it's doing for them. And that, you know, the one that went up recently was like, if you're depressed and you don't eat, because sometimes that's hard, you don't want to go through the effort of obtaining something to eat.
Yeah.
It's just going to reinforce your depression because you already don't have enough energy.
Yeah.
But now you're not putting energy in your body. But also we don't need to be like, hey, if you're depressed, you need to eat all this healthy food to help your mental clarity. No, we just need to eat food is where we need to start. Like you just need to eat something. Even if it's Easy Mac, I don't care. Those are calories that are going to start helping you be able to like pull yourself out of the cycle of low energy availability.
It's so interesting that even that though, because you're talking about, you know, foods that are healthy and good for you, but also you're talking about like when I know, I can speak from personal experience, if I get really down, I struggle with wanting to eat. I used to eat my feelings and then as I gotten older, it's changed. I find that I'm like, okay, I'm depressed or I'm not happy right now, but what will give me some calories and will make me happy, probably not the best thing for me, but I just don't think about it, is chocolate, is sugar. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat the whole box, but I'm going to eat, at least it'll make me happy and it'll give me some energy because nothing sounds good. A sandwich doesn't sound good. Yeah. Like, you know, nothing healthy.
Yeah. And at some point, the channel will definitely get into talking about like eating for joy too. Like we're not just eating to have energy to work off of. Yes, we are, because it's like a basic need, but also how do we have fun with the food we're eating? Like not everything has to be I don't really believe in like good foods and bad foods. And I also don't believe in like breakfast, lunch, and dinner because for a long time for me, that was prohibitive. Like I didn't like foods that were categorized as breakfast foods. So I just would skip breakfast. But then as an athlete, I had low energy and I just like couldn't perform the way I wanted to perform. And then also as a working person later in life, I like was having huge energy dips in the middle of the day. And it was like, of course, I didn't eat anything, especially for women's bodies. Like we know that fasting and like you have to break your fast in the morning in a woman's body. Like we work differently than men. And that's all new research that's coming out.
Fast Like a Girl.
Yeah.
Have you read Fast Like a Girl?
I have not, no. But yeah, so we like are learning all of these things and I hope to provide this information to other people so that, you know, they can also have a relationship that's around food that's joyful.
Yeah.
And that it's easier and it doesn't always have to be like such a task.
I'm hoping that one day we talked about it, I can come on and cook one of these things with you.
Yes.
I would love that.
You know, I'm a great collab, a crossover, if you will.
I love food. It's one of the reasons, food and mics don't necessarily mesh, but we are going to eat something because I do love food. I have a passion for it. I also had probably a love-hate relationship with it for a long time, but I love food. You know, food is a big part of the specialty, but is it also athletes, just so people understand, is it athletes, LGBTQ plus?
A little bit of everything. So, I can work and most of my clients right now are just adults with like general mental health needs or like life transitions or like wanting to explore their identity and things like that. But then I also am a therapist that I have had some specializations and specialties. So I can do all of the normal therapy things. And then I do have the extra training for these other things as well. Okay. And so one is specifically athletes, food or not food related.
Okay.
So that can be like mental performance. That can be identity exploration, like I was talking about earlier around who are you as an athlete? Who are you outside of that? It could be working through the mental side of like injury recovery. There are so many realms, but also athletes are people, so they just need regular therapy too. So any of those things, and I think I said the performance piece as well. So like, what are your goals? How do we, as a runner, I used to have a really challenging relationship with running where everything was like competing for a time and it really took the joy out of running. And how do we bring the joy back to things by being the kind of person that moves your body, that this is still something joyful and playful. And also to clarify for people, I consider an athlete anyone who moves their body. You don't have to be an elite athlete. So I also work with people who are on a movement journey. Maybe they're someone who's on a medically recommended weight loss journey. and they want to start movement, but is really intimidating, then I work with those people. And sometimes those are even like exposures. My sessions might be like walking and talking with consent from that person.
Oh, wow.
In a space that hopefully we won't know anyone that like you or I run into that we know. And like I said, like with all the legal consents, but we can do that out in a public place so that we can like process like, what is it like to go on a walk? Why is this hard? Or with one of my clients before, I've gone into a gym with them and introduced them to like a gym and walked around so it felt more comfortable and like a safer space to be. So I like to do those things a lot. I like to take therapy sometimes outside of just the office or like
I love that.
your office that you're sitting in on your computer and me on mine. I also work either in tandem with those things or separately, eating and body image concerns.
Okay.
That could be a diagnosed eating disorder. That could be someone who is on a journey with a GLP. I think like most people who are on GLPs, if
What
we
is a
really
GLP?
like Ozempic and GLPs and semaglutide. So like Ozempic, Wegovy, all of those. I work with folks who are on those journeys. I typically like to work with like their full team that's like prescribing those and things too, so we can all support that person. But what a lot of us are learning in the field is that when people are on GLPs, they can be really wonderful in helping with a multitude of different things. Some like not FDA approved yet, but what we also want to make sure is that when they are no longer using the semaglutide, especially for a lot of folks, like if it's not covered by insurance, they can't stay on it for the rest of their life.
Got it.
How do we make sure that you built habits while on it that you can maintain while off of it so that we're not just like bouncing back and it doesn't become like another like yo-yo diet?
Which is never mentally good for anyone.
Yeah. So I like to work with folks on those kind of things. Yeah. Any body image concerns really. And then, yeah, I also specialize in working with the LGBTQ community, which oftentimes are intersecting with those other two identities that I just mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Like we know right now being a trans or non-binary person in sport is like really difficult. I do a little bit of all of them together with the other identities or completely separately.
But that's interesting. You kind of found what you gravitated towards, what speaks to you and those.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's extremely fulfilling. And I'm so happy that you switched from being in the entertainment industry to being a therapist.
Me too.
We didn't talk about them, but I've heard some of your horror stories about that side of things.
No one needs to know. It's fine. But watch The Devil Wears Prada, and that gives you like some idea of what it was like.
Yeah.
Not when I was a personal assistant, though. That was a much better relationship.
But what the journey you went on and where you're at today, from your grandparents to your parents to your upbringing to traveling abroad to being in LA and to meeting your future wife and your dog, and what a beautiful life you have. And I'm so excited for the Instagram that you've started, the channel, and I'm excited for your business, your private practice. Is there anything looking back that you would have done differently?
When I was in my early 20s and started in entertainment, I think it was an actress on one of the like Hollywood Reporter roundtables. I was obsessed with those. I mean, I still am. Yeah. Yes. I heard her say something to the effect of like, I don't have regrets because I wouldn't be who I am. And I remember at the time thinking like, I hope that's the life I live. Sure, like are there some things that I wish played out differently? Absolutely. And I don't think I would have made any different choices because I truly don't think I would be the person I am with the character that I have or like the life circumstances that I have right now. Like I have the most incredible supportive partner that I think our partnership worked out because we found each other at the precise right time, at the precise right place in both of our journeys where, you know, we both had put in a lot of the work on ourselves and we really knew who we were as individuals. And I just don't think like a lot of those things would be the same if I had done anything different.
And then where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 50?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, gosh, I hope I'm a chuck wagon.
You're like, I already told you, Danielle.
5 years, I hope I have a family and a practice that's doing really well. I hope I'm like doing more of this type of stuff for like speaking. I think I really enjoy like the informing. I think my two favorite parts of being a therapist are my curiosity and just I want to know everything and then sharing that information.
Yeah.
So those are my two favorite parts. So I want to be doing more of that. And then I would say, like, if I'm going really far in 50 years, I just hope I have, like, 2 kids that ain't too bad. And I'm like sitting on a rocking chair with my wife, watching a sunset, eating a peach pie or something. I don't know. It's just something like normal and chill and very like basic.
That sounds perfect, honestly. Absolutely perfect. I love that. That's such a smile. I can't wait for you and Anne to have a family. I just got excited. I think that's beautiful. I love all your answers. I'm going to grab us some food.
Okay, great.
And you can talk about why you chose what you chose. And then we're going to do a little sweet and savory round.
Okay, perfect.
So for those who don't know, this is actually our second time doing this. Because the first time you were one of my victims of bad sound. I'm so happy you chose pad thai, by the way. I haven't had pad thai in so long.
It's
why did you choose pad thai?
One, I just love any Asian food. And one time I was really curious why most food I eat and cook is Asian food. And supposedly the internet told me that Asian food has the most number or like the highest diversity of salt, fat, acid, heat, umami all in one meal or dish. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I love Asian and Southeast Asian foods the most. Thai food specifically is just my comfort food. When I like need to be grounded or had a bad day or had a great day, I just naturally am choosing Thai food. Anne has never had so much Thai food in her life.
So you chose it because it's your comfort food.
You have to have it.
Well, are you ready to take the sweet and savory rapid round quiz? Okay. Waffles or tacos?
Waffles or tacos? Tacos.
Romantic comedy or psychological thriller?
Romantic comedy.
Fresh flowers or scented candles?
Scented candles.
Quiet bookstore or a loud concert?
Quiet bookstore for sure.
Golden hour or midnight?
Oh God, golden hour.
Apologize first or wait for an explanation?
Oh, apologize first. I can't. No.
Silk or leather?
Leather.
People pleaser or truth teller?
People pleaser.
A warm hug or a firm handshake?
Warm hug.
Ask for permission or ask for forgiveness?
Forgiveness.
Doubt yourself or double down?
Doubt myself.
Emotional or analytical?
Emotional.
Safety or risk?
Risk.
Second chances or one strike and you're out?
Oh, second chances.
Write the hero or write the villain?
The villain.
Heart on your sleeve or cards close to your chest?
Cards close to my chest.
Seek advice or trust your gut?
Oh, seek advice.
Nostalgia or the future?
Nostalgia.
Forgiveness or boundaries?
Boundaries.
Team player or lone wolf?
Lone wolf.
Sweet talk or real talk?
Real talk.
Keep the peace or start the conversation?
Oh, keep the peace.
Validation or results?
Results.
Morning cuddle or morning workout?
Oh God, I talk about this in therapy on a weekly basis. My debate over this, yes. I mean, several of these are constant works in progress.
So you're saying the wraparound is
workout.
good. It's good. Morning workout. Okay. Cozy cabin or penthouse suite?
Oh, cozy cabin.
Vulnerability or strength?
Vulnerability.
Be the muse or be the mastermind?
Mastermind.
Classic or trendsetter?
Classic.
Small circle or power network?
Small circle.
Sugarcoat it or give it to me straight?
Give it to me straight.
Wow. Sweet. I won. What were you last time?
Last time I was overwhelmingly sweet. I think these different questions.
Different questions.
I was like, these are definitely different.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Courtney. And the food is fantastic, obviously.
So good.
I devoured the entire plate in 2 seconds. I'm so happy to know that you were sweet. Thank you for coming on the Sweet and Savory. I can't wait to see more of the Food Enough Therapist videos and wishing you all the best.
Thanks. And we'll collab next time.
Yes. Excited for, even though I'm going to miss your wedding. Congrats.
Thanks.
Much love.
Thank
Mwah.
you.